Oh, well, hi. I didn't see you there. These little wonderful thumper massagers are excellent for using before practice to help loosen you up, increase circulation, and make it more likely that your practice will be fruitful. Little devices like this or the canes, I will just continually remind you that it's very handy to begin your practice with a little massage, maybe a warm bath if heat helps you. Find a way to loosen up beforehand, and then your practice is that much more fruitful. This is a cheap version, but it works. And once you've done a little bit of that work, let's go ahead and settle into this comfortable standing position. Take the time to release tension in your scalp as best you can, which may feel like tension in the forehead or around your eyes, between your eyebrows. Today, in particular, we want to continually release the face, the cheeks, the lips, the jaw, softening the throat, the back of the neck, letting go, feeling that release of the head upward. We have a Melanie in the background. Welcome. Deeply softening these lines along the front of the throat, the lines along the back of the neck, and again, softening the face and as best you can the scalp. And of course, letting go of the shoulders, the tops, the front and the back of the shoulders. Another important aspect for us today to emphasize is this release around the shoulder this way, this sort of intersecting quality of the movement around the shoulder that we're always rotating. Feeling that line as well soften as your elbows sink, your forearms and your wrists let go. Your chest softens. Letting go of your solar plexus and your belly. And for our purposes today, especially letting go of that space between the shoulder blades, the mid-back and along the lower back here. Letting all of this open as your tailbone sinks and your glutes release. This line here falls open. Remember that for most people, they tend to grip here and hold, clenching. This is what clenching looks like, pulling through here. And as these areas soften, they open. Your hips drift back and open. Your lower back drifts back, begins to flatten out, depending on your body type, of course. Take your time. Softening your thighs. In particular for us, releasing the hamstrings, space in the backs of the legs here, softening the space behind your knee. Letting go of your lower legs. Noticing the state of tension in your calves, allowing them to release. It's often helpful to feel as though the calves are releasing upward, this way. For some reason there's a sense of lifting as this area opens and expands, but you do want a feeling of relaxation and softness to develop. Being aware of the heels and the outer edge of the foot to your little toe as it connects to the ground, softening deeply. Closing when you're ready. Settling down, softening through. So, as you may have guessed, today we are emphasizing a new sinew channel. This is the last of the 12 primary sinew channels that we've been covering. So you've come quite a long way. Remember to review them as often as you need to. Very useful for your practice to understand these lines and how they relate through the body. And these, of course, start on the little toe, the fifth toe, and it runs on the outside of the foot. And so through this connection, the sense of relating to the ground, it also wraps around the heel somewhat. So this entire outside line where the foot tends to make this outward line of pressure, this is related to the bladder sinew channel, the urinary bladder sinew channel. And it flows up through the calf muscle, binding in the calf here, flows up to the space behind the knee, and of course, like the other channels we've been talking about, binds at this point on the side of the knee here, gallbladder 34, if you feel like looking it up. Flowing up the backs of the legs, through the center of the glute, and it flows up and up along the midline of the spine, just off to this midline of the spine here, in the middle of these muscles, flowing up, off to the sides of the muscles in the neck, over the top, down through here, and even somewhat through the face, where it connects in these deeper points here. And as well, as I mentioned, there's a wrapping connection that comes around through here, in this quality of the shoulder, this area of movement through the shoulder, which is related to the movement in the back, which is why a lot of our movements throughout the form are continuously opening this line at the same time that we're expressing movement through the back. And so we'll continually explore that as we go through this form today. The bladder sinew channel. It's a good one. So when you're ready, gentle circles. Softening your hands, releasing your breath. Your awareness flowing around through the inside. Both directions. So let's do a little warming on the back. And this line that we're warming, as long as it's comfortable for your wrists and your hands, in the center of the musculature that runs on either side of the spine, both in the middle and on the outer edge, all through this area. As we warm down through the glutes, this is along that bladder sinew channel, which is very close to the surface of the body, warming this fascial line and all of the connecting points, up and down. You can also move this way if that's easier for you. Softening and warming. And then let's do a little bit of lengthening and softening the sides of the neck. Because of the bladder channel's connections through the face, we want to make certain that we soften our cheeks and our forehead, around our eyes, our jaw, one side then the other. Lengthening the right side, lengthening the left side. And then let's do a little bit of the left and right yin and yang release. As you release, for instance, your right arm, remember to release this connecting line, that which holds your arm and shoulder against your body over your ribs. Allow that to open, almost like this entire section of your body wants to fall off. Let it go. And then, combining those, snake softening its sides, massaging and warming the bladder sinew line, releasing the shoulders, pouring the weight, softening your neck. And then smaller and smaller movements. Deepening your awareness of this line. You can even pause at the end, holding your hands against your lower back, allowing the warmth to soak in. Anywhere that tends to feel cold and contracted in this area. And then gently sliding back around to the navel. And again, closing. Sinking and settling. Waiting for that sense of settling and storing. Waiting for that change to happen inside. Let it take as long as it needs. So for some of you, you stumbled across this lesson somewhere on the internet. And to you, I say welcome. And I also let you know that this is part of a long series, 100 days, and you're stumbling into the middle of the practice. So it's probably best for you to look down below for one of the links that will take you back to the beginning, to step one, or even the introductory thing that will explain why we're doing this and how to get the most out of your practice. That's probably a better place to start. For the rest of you, you know how this goes. If you are somebody who finds that this particular bladder sinew line is stiff and unusually painful or cold, or tight in your body, maybe you have spasms in your little toe, these are things that you want to pay attention to. Recognize that the bladder sinew channel for you is especially problematic, as it is for a lot of people. The first recommendation is to warm it up to see if that helps, like I mentioned with the bath or the thumper massager, to create movement and warmth in this area. This particular bladder sinew channel is very close to the surface and in a place that tends to collect cold and contraction, pain in the body due to injury and trauma and movement, whiplash. And so please do take the time to see if warmth and soothing can help. And if it does affect you more than other places in your body, spend extra time with this version of the set, exploring and warming and healing this. It's a very common area to have problems with. And so it's one of the reasons I saved it toward the end, so that we have more experience with dealing with this area by the time we get here. Settling down, let's go ahead and soften the hips, rotating the pelvis, full comfortable circle, just tilting the pelvis, allowing your upper body to stay still. Just tilt. And of course for today, noticing as your lower back opens, your tailbone drops under, softening the glutes, releasing the backs of the thighs, the lower back opens, both directions. And then when you're ready, the larger circles, all the way around. Letting your hips trace a path around your upper body and your head stay more or less in the same spot. Opening along the bladder sinew channel, releasing as your hips drop back, backs of the thighs, a little higher in your lower back. We're not obsessing about this single area. We're still looking to create movement all the way through the body. We want to pay special attention to releasing this line. Both directions. then when you're ready, upper spine, starting as small as you like, gentle circles. This is another one that's especially important for this sinew channel. Softening along the throat, across the face, and especially the back of the neck, that space between the shoulder blades. Lengthening and releasing. Go slowly as your head drops down in circles, waiting for that to open and release. Both directions. Remember that you can allow your eyes to circle with you as a way to exercise around your eyes a bit. And then let's do a little bit of extra up and down. Remember, softening along the front of the throat without closing the back of the neck. Without closing the throat, lengthen along the back of the neck, especially today, releasing the base of the neck, the middle of the neck, and the top of the neck near the skull, which for most people seems to be the most difficult area to let go of. Looking down lengthens and stretches the entirety of your bladder sinew channel, all the way down to your feet, if you can stay out of the way enough to feel it. And then when you feel ready, closing. As usual, I'm dressed up in the colors of this particular channel for the occasion. So if you want a little fun extra benefit perhaps for working on this channel, you can wear deep blues and blacks. Get into the bladder costume. So let's do a bit of extra shoulder movement in preparation for softening front and back. One foot in the back, circling the shoulder around, all the way around. One side is stable, closing toward the side as usual, opening away as usual. And again, today, this has special significance because the bladder channel wraps around this exact line that we're opening through. As your shoulder blade releases, you open along the front, you soften the top, soften along the back, releasing the shoulder blade, softening beneath the rib side like we talked about yesterday. Always releasing outward toward the fingertips, both directions. and of course both sides. Taking your time, doesn't matter which direction you begin with. I recommend spending extra time in whichever direction of whichever side is having the most difficulty. There's always one. Both directions. Palm turning toward you, palm turning forward. And then, both sides, taking your time. All the way around, palms turning forward, palms turning back. A little softer each time. And especially today, because we want to keep the back and the bladder channels open, do not lean back as your shoulders move around. Instead, keep your back open, your hips and lower back back. That's why they call it back. Without arching or collapsing your hips. I know that's easy to do, especially today because it will collapse and cause more restriction in this particular channel we're focusing on. You can go one direction, and you can go the other. Whichever direction feels like it needs a little bit more help, feel free to switch back and forth. It's all okay. Take as long as you need. And then when you're finished, alternating. Combining a little bit of that left and right yin and yang we were practicing earlier. The weight pouring through, we let go, letting go all the way around. Turning your waist slightly, softening your hips. Both directions. At some point when you're ready, once again closing. Waiting for everything to settle, to feel free and comfortable. Feeling that space deep to the navel. Let's do a bit of swaying front to back like a wave, starting with the head, and then gently beginning to include the shoulders. Eventually the full length of the spine, just as usual. But of course today, emphasizing this moment when we're folding and rounding forward, lengthening the bladder sinew channel all the way up to the base of the skull. Don't skip past it. Wait for everything to lengthen and then continue around. Softening and warming along the length, allowing your awareness to touch that channel, which helps to heal and enliven it. Smaller and smaller. And again, allowing everything to settle. The warmth of your intent gathering in that space at the level of the navel, in the middle, Danxian. Let's do a little more prep work and set up for the black snake movement. Softening the neck side to side. Looking over the top and down. Softening open the front. Feeling again this aspect of the bladder sinew channel, expanding open. Don't pull the back of the shoulder, just open along the front. You can see that it's a different shape when I pull it versus when I soften it open. Releasing the sides of the neck and the throat. Again, moving your eyes. And then looking down into up and back. Continually softening your scalp as best you can, your forehead, your eyes, your cheeks and jaw. Closing. Always returning to stillness. Lengthening vertically, lengthening horizontally. Emphasize the expanding open of this line along the back of the neck. Elbows separate, pulling apart away from the spine, and then vertically lengthening. Strengthening these muscles, but doing it through lengthening rather than through deepening the tendency to contract and close this area here in the back of the neck. Palms forward, lengthening outward all the way around. Settling your hands along the sides of the body in this neutral position. Make sure that you don't lean back. And then, once again, looking down, lengthening the back of the neck, looking up, moving your eyes. Gentle pressure to inhibit the movement. Gentle lifting of the weight using your head. Don't strain yourself. I've already heard now of a couple people doing this that are hurting themselves by pushing too hard. So please don't do that. It just makes you learn more slowly. It does not speed anything up. One last time, lengthening. And then we soften down. The only reason I'm constantly repeating all of these cautions is because quite regularly I hear about people doing these practices who are not listening to them, and so they get hurt. Please be gentle. Please go slowly, much more softly and gently than you imagine. Make everything easy and kind. Please. And then when you're ready, coming up the middle line, palms turning down before the level of the heart, shoulder blades sliding down the back so that your shoulders and neck are open, lengthening your spine. The top of the head floats up, the tailbone sinks down, and then gently letting the top of the head float up against your hands, extending. Let's go ahead and turn the head from side to side. Using the flat of your palm to gently help rotate the neck. We're not trying to exercise any muscles here. We're simply helping to soften, open potentially stuck places. Please do not push hard. We're not trying to create pops or cracks. but rather to soften. Releasing down. If you use too much force, then your body will push back, trying to protect itself. So if you feel a stretch or any kind of strain at all, it means you're not relaxing, you're tightening up. And you'll do this forever without learning to let go. So please do take the time to be soft. Again, I know for some of you this is just needless repetition, but there are some people that need to hear it in order to be safe, because we're talking about the neck and the spine, and it needs to be protected. So please take your time. Let's do a little bit of frozen shoulder movement. Turn your head, just similar to the passive rotation we were practicing. I wanted to make this connection a little more directly. So my hand touches, and as I rotate, as my shoulder sinks, I can use my hand to gently rotate my head, pivoting without tension, without trying to force a crack or anything. This is not a chiropractic adjustment. And then we lengthen outward. Once more. Letting go in between. And then lateral movement as best you can. Softening your face. And then shaking out from the top to the bottom. Nice. And now closing. Remember that closing and settling is the same thing as hitting the save button on your computer. This is where we keep the changes we've been creating. If you don't take the time to settle, your body throws off some huge percentage of the change you've been trying to make. But if you get quiet and you notice the changes and you soften, your whole nervous system begins to accept these new adjustments that we're making. So if you're finding that your body isn't changing very quickly or at all, sometimes the problem is that you have not been taking this time to settle and become quiet. I know that's hard for some people, but that only makes it twice as important. You can think of it like a vitamin that humans do not do well without. Stillness. Very important. So let's do A little bit of this. Remember to rotate around the shoulder girdle, opening along your back. Don't lean back, don't shorten the bladder sinew line. Rotate, lengthen. Back of the neck, lengthen alongside the spine. One more. Softening the shoulder blade down. Shoulder blade slides down your back, opening. Hand up and down. Turning your waist gently, just a little bit. Turning the waist. Wonderful. Shaking out a bit. Let's do a bit of black snake. Paying special attention to that bladder sinew line all along the side of the spine as you twist. And especially here as you look down and round open along the back and alongside the spine. Soften the back of your neck, space between your shoulder blades, mid-back and lower back. Soften your glutes, backs of your thighs, backs of your knees, your calves, your heels. Closing when you're ready. A little softer each time. Again, protect that sinew line on the back. Don't lean back. Now, similarly, you soften open here. Don't lean back. Keep this open. Shoulder blades sink down. And as your shoulder blades sink, it helps to soften this line all the way around the shoulder here. And for our purposes, especially here when we let go, feel all of this soften open. Changing your feet. Both sides. Softening as your chest sinks, your upper back releases a bit. As you allow your chest to open, don't squeeze or contract your back. So your back is opening in a way in both directions. But especially here as you sink down and this lengthens slightly. The lower back, your hips sink. Closing. Nourishing the middle. A little warmer and stronger each time. There are entire Qigong sets devoted to gathering Qi in different ways to the body. And this set, the snake and turtle set, doesn't have too much of that. It's more focused around freeing up the body and circulating, moving, creating new connections. But all of this closing and settling that we do, and our mind sits in the middle, is a way of gathering Qi into the center, increasing vitality, warming and healing the body. So don't skip it. I'll just keep saying it. When I'm recording this now, winter has just started. And winter is the time associated with the kidneys and the bladder, this water cycle, and it's associated with the time of deep nourishment, of deeply healing. So we take our time. We go slow. We settle. We take naps. We go to bed early. Do it. And we get soft so that the Qi can sink. Opening. Palms turning outward. Elbows high enough so that the shoulders drape, shoulder blades sink down the back. Palms turning forward. Again, especially for the sake of the back here, be careful you don't lean back. It's really common. In fact, this actually goes backward as the shoulder sinks. Just tapping so you can see it. Palms out. This opens. Shoulders sink. The back opens. Spreads and lengthens through your glutes. Little white snake. Same thing here. It's very common for people that have a tight bladder sinew line to constantly contract and tighten here, this is the only place they know how to create movement. And so they're bending it all the time. It's like folding paper in one spot too many times, it starts to tear. We want to keep the back soft and open. So we can open along the chest and lift. And there's movement through the spine, flexibility. But it's the soft whole body movement, not folding and damaging the lower back, not collapsing. Opening, lengthening, all the way from the heels, all the way up to the head and the hands. A little preparation for golden snake. Once again, noticing this movement traveling around this part of the bladder sinew channel. Lengthening out to the sides, don't come back, don't collapse your back. Spreading open that space between your shoulder blades. This is one we focused a lot on yesterday. You can see that today is a very different emphasis, a different part of the body. And yet we still want the spine to be expressed and open. The other side. Both sides. Soften that space between your shoulder blades, sinking your chest. Lengthening the back of your neck, crown of the head floats up. Softening your lower back, your hips, your glutes. Both directions. Turning your waist, freeing your lower back, soften your space between your shoulder blades. Keep the neck soft and long. Releasing all the way around. Keep the back of your neck long. Again, as you come around and you turn your waist, don't arch your back. Keep this back. Your hips soft, your shoulders beneath your neck, your waist beneath your shoulders, your hips beneath your waist. Everything softens around. Easy. Take your time. One side then the other. Nice to start small. Slowly increase the size. Both sides, both directions. Shoulder stays soft. Shoulder blade continues to slide down the back. Both sides. Take as long as you like with that practice. It's a wonderful basic setup. And if there's one side and one direction in particular that you find difficult, spend extra time there. Use the exercise to shore up those spaces in your body that are particularly closed or frozen or painful. Don't use force. Instead, just be patient. Use kindness as a kind of medicine. Kindness is one of the most important forms of medicine. And then, golden snake. Again, we stretch out. Take your time. Remember to especially soften along your back, lengthening alongside the spine. Breath is open and natural. Take your time. All the way around, especially as your back opens and you lean forward. Closing when you're ready. Let's just do a minute or so of gentle, spontaneous movement, perhaps swaying like seaweed, side to side or front to back, letting go. And as you move, allow your body to move into those places that require extra attention. Of course, for today, especially along this bladder sinew line, along the back of the body. Pay extra close attention and see what it needs. Does it need to soften along the back of your legs? Maybe you circle and somehow release your lower back. Find out what calls to you and let it move, and let that movement surprise you. Just another 30 seconds. Of course, you can always feel free to pause the lesson and play with this as long as you'd like, if it's feeling good. There is no right or wrong way to do it as long as you are continually freeing up these areas of your body. And then opening and closing. Noticing that as you close and your hands cross, your palms turn toward you, that whole line along the back opens. Softening, opening, lengthening, all the way along the body. And when you're ready, opening, freeing up the bladder sinew line. With every movement, it's a little softer, more open, free in the back of your body. One more time in this direction. And then sinking down. Palms turn in, elbows sink, shoulder blades slide down the back, chest settles. Closing when you're done. Take your time. As you close as well, you can have some awareness in the back, the place in your spine opposite your navel. We call it the Mingmen, gate of destiny, the gate of life there. Some warmth as well gathers there with your attention, and then the space between your hands and that point, warming up. Where your mind rests, where your intent goes, your chi is led. The quality of that chi imitates the quality of your mind. So we're soft and comfortable, easy. Free in your legs, easy in your body. Nice. Let's do a little bit of movement this way. This series here I wanted to save a bit of extra time for because it's particularly helpful for this sinew line, bladder sinew. Softening open the back. You can allow a little wave to travel down toward the feet, emphasizing the release of the top of the back of the neck, middle of the back of the neck, base of the back of the neck, and then a gentle roll down the rest of your spine. Not too large for this movement right now. Larger in the coming movements. And then a few more of the preparatory practices. Remember that we let your hips go back. Don't lean forward. Let your hips travel back. And slide around, warming the lower back, gently opening along the front without collapsing the back. And then we warm along the backs of the legs. Hips travel back and back and back and back, keeping our spine long, only as far as feels comfortable. And then the hips come forward. Hands lead the movement. Don't leave your hands behind. And then again, warm the lower back, open the front. And again, we soften, lengthening the spine, opening the backs of the hips, the glutes, the lines behind the glutes, beneath, to the backs of the knees, the calves, the heels, all the way to the little toe, this lengthening through. Feel that movement traveling down. Don't force it. Only goes far as is easy for you. Feels comfortable. And again, especially taking care of your blood pressure if that's an issue for you. A couple more. Only as far down as feels easy. Stay in the realm of easy. Warming the low back, protecting it, closing. Now, let's do a bit of those openings and closings that we practice sometimes. So we'll begin by opening, elbows lifting. Don't close the upper back, just lengthen along the front, softening the front of the hips. And for our purposes, emphasizing this rounding forward, not trying to force our abs to crunch or anything. We're simply opening all the way along the sides of the spine, back of the neck, base of the skull. And then again, we open along the front without forcing the back to close. Protect that sinew line. And then again, we open, spreading the ribs. Let's do this a couple more times. Open. One more. No force. Just a reminder. I know it looks like it could be a strong contraction, but we just want to have an extension, a lengthening, continuing to lengthen all the way through the spine. Decompressing along the back of the body. Now let's do a bit of turtle drinking qi, which is really wonderful for this line alongside the spine. But again, being gentle, especially if you have blood pressure issues or any kind of abdominal compression tendencies. It doesn't have to compress here, but we tend to do it if we're practicing incorrectly. So I want everyone to stay safe, please. Sinking down and back, hips traveling back, and softening. Leading with the top of the head and the nose. Opening along the front of the body without compressing the back. And we soften down. One of the reasons that I stopped leading this movement with our hands here, which is initially the way that I learned it, is because I found that people were compressing their abdomen as they sunk down, and we don't want to do that. So I'll put my hands here just so you can see it. But these days I prefer to put my hands here just because for some people it's not good for their belly. But I'll let you see what the movement looks like. Again, closing. Lengthening upward, opening alongside the spine, sinking down, releasing the whole body, but of course, especially that sinew channel. Softening the hips, the glutes, space behind the knees. Release all the way to the heels, into the ground. And then as though you gather up, it warms along back of the legs, the inside, up to the lower back. Your awareness touches that Mingmen point I was talking about, and then comes forward into the center of the body. And we relax. Wait until you let go before you do the next one. for our purposes, emphasizing this lengthening the crown of the head, floating upward, the whole spine long and soft, and softening through the body down the back, letting go of any obstructions along the way. You're not pushing down, you're simply letting it fall through into the ground. Twisting the waist, softening your shoulders. Let the movement come through and across here, your lower back. Being very careful not to lean back or arch your back or to twist your hips. Hips stay here, waist turns. That's what allows your lower back to release. If your hips are turning with it, then it's not going to move your lower back very much. So we want to soften through the middle. Release on either side of the ribs and in the back. Your shoulder blades swing forward and back, gently massaging your upper back. Your neck is soft, crown of the head floating. The weight pours down through one leg and then the other. One heel lightens, the other heel lightens. Take your time. This is a variation here. One hand very gently striking the Mingmen point in the back, on the spine opposite the navel. One on the navel itself. Gently directing your awareness inside to the space between. Just enough to tap, enough to draw attention there, not enough to disperse. Softening all the way through. Your whole body releases, your mind quiet and open. Some extra attention soaking into the area of the neck and the shoulders, all the way from the surface in through to the bones. And then some special attention just beneath the surface of the skin, all along the bladder channel, the face and the top of the head, down the back of the neck, either side of the spine, the center of the glutes, down the backs of the legs, all the way to the heels, side of the foot to the little toe. Feel that whole sinew channel warm and open, extra attention paid to it. Again, spending extra time today warming up the face, around the eyes. Waiting until your hands are warm. Don't use cold hands on your face. Warming around the eyes. Warm the whole face if you'd like. Around the ears. And then very importantly, bladder channel runs here along the top of the scalp. So we want to use our fingernails and work that really well. Extra today. Warming and cleansing the channel, purging it, stagnation. If you can, highly recommended to do this whenever you get into the shower. Just spend extra time moving chi through this channel. And then the same thing, it runs along here. So we soften the back of the head. And especially if, like for me, maybe you're in a cold place or the winter time, spend extra time warming the space until the heat soaks in and there's a sense of it radiating back out again from the inside if you can. And if you have a friend nearby, Melanie already left, but you can have them work on your upper back on the other side of the spine as well, especially now. Warming, patting, massaging, gently creating movement. You can scratch if that feels good, just to help to free this space that might be a little bit more difficult for most people to reach. Spend a little extra time here around this line, this rotational component here that attaches. You might feel it moving. Part of the reason I've been teaching these sinew channels is to help people feel them in their body. The same with the primary channels that I was teaching in the self-massage series. You can begin to experience them for yourself rather than just memorize them. And so if you connect to your body just through simple movement, the quality of connection that we're labeling here as the sinew channels is very palpable with practice if you're paying attention. And this form is a wonderful way to explore that. And so we want to help you uncover this quality of the body. Try not to hit my mic here. But do spend lots of time around this whole channel here as it wraps around. And now, here. Again, if this is uncomfortable for your wrists or hands, it's okay to use the backs of your hands. It doesn't work quite as well, or maybe this part of your hand, call it the eye of the fist. I'll use my palms, warming along the bladder channel. Really good practice just to do every day in general before you do any training. And then again, we continue down along the backs of the legs. If you find this very tight or painful, of course, you probably won't be able to lean over like this. So you can do it sitting, lying down, only reaching as much as you're able to, of course. And again, if you have a friend who can help you, please ask for their help. All the way down to the little toe. I apologize for when I smack my mic. I know that it's a loud sound. Do a little shaking, emphasizing as we shake the opening part, which is loosening and opening the backs of the legs, feeling all of this shake. Across the hips. Loosening the lower back. Make sure you don't lean back. Your belly, your ribs, especially that sinew channel. Feeling it open to the vibrations. Space between your shoulder blades. Yeah. And then the whole body. Feels good. Thank you, my friends. You're doing great. You made it through all 12, the primary sinew channels. We'll continue doing other work with Chinese medicine. But this is one of the main central points of this set that I wanted to explore while releasing the neck and shoulders, of course. And if you need to review them, please do from time to time. It's easy to look them up as well. Just do a quick search. But I hope this becomes a resource so you can understand the relationships through your body. Review it as often as you need until you can feel them for yourself. And then as you move, you'll notice when lines are being restricted or cut off along this very superficial aspect of the body. And a bit at a time, we become more and more aware of what's going on inside. And that's part of our goal. Keep up the good work. I'll see you tomorrow.